Welcome everyone to the Sunnyvale Democratic Club meeting of May 17th. Thank you for your patience. Excited to have a wonderful agenda here today. We do have in the room a couple of elected officials. Paul Fong is here. And our invited guest speaker, Assemblymember Patrick Ahrens, is in the room. We also have school board members, Peggy Shen-Brewster. Online there is Bridget Watson. And I think that's all the elected officials currently online. Okay, and you can see on the screen our agenda for today. We'll have Patrick Ahrens first, and then we have Indivisible Palo Alto Plus. We'll have an introduction by Julaine Rosner. And then we have our annual executive board elections. And then we'll follow at the end with announcements and the election results. Okay, so all right, our special guest. Test. Did it clear up? All right, I'll try again. So our special guest at this meeting is Assemblymember Patrick Ahrens, representing Assembly District 26, which includes Sunnyvale, Cupertino, Santa Clara, Alviso, and West San Jose. A native of Silicon Valley, Ahrens is deeply committed to addressing the challenges faced by constituents in one of the most dynamic and demanding regions of California. He lives in Sunnyvale and was elected in November 2024. He did recently speak out about opposing cuts to the Head Start program, and he was supported by a bipartisan coalition that included 3/4 of the legislature. Lots of support there. Prior to joining the Assembly, as most people know, Ahrens served as trustee on the Foothill De Anza Community College District Board, where he led efforts to build affordable housing for faculty, staff, and students, and collaborated with Santa Clara County to establish a first-in-the-state medical clinic at De Anza College. You can see on the screen, maybe, some of his committee assignments, which are numerous and varied. He's also co-chair of the California Legislative Technology and Innovation Caucus and a member of California Legislative Jewish Caucus and the Bay Area Caucus. And after his first 100 days in office, Assemblymember Ahrens will give us an update on his legislative agenda, and we will have Q&A afterwards. So come on up, Patrick.
Can I sit here?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone. This is a comfortable chair. Feels like I'm on the Tonight Show. Well, it's good to see you all. It's good to always be back home in Sunnyvale. I love when I'm back here. And thank you so much for that warm introduction. It's been a very, very busy first 100 days. We're now probably closer to 150 days. And it has been quite the whirlwind since getting elected. Really excited to see my predecessor in this role, former Assemblymember Paul Fong, and current trustee of the Mission West Valley Community College District. Thank you so much, Paul, for your mentorship and guidance in this role. But it has been quite the whirlwind in Sacramento. Khalil on our team has been an amazing district representative for our assembly district. He's based in our local district office, and he's passing around my bill package for this year, so you all can take a look at the bills that made it out of committee. I'm really proud to announce that all of the bills that I've introduced made it out of their policy committee and moved to the Senate. And and most of them, if not all of them, address anti-poverty measures, and they address what I campaigned on last year, which is talking about the economy, talking about reducing barriers to success, and lowering the cost of the high living here in our district. It's expensive everywhere in California, but I think we feel it more acutely, more than anywhere else in the state. And the housing crisis is hard. In other parts of California, um, it's probably the worst felt here in terms of the disparity. And so, as you can see from this spreadsheet, um, I'm really, and we can send this link online for those who are interested, but all of this has to do with protecting our most vulnerable population in Silicon Valley. Just speaking the fact that we are here right here in our mobile home park. I've got a mobile home park residency protection law program, which basically takes, 25 of the most egregious cases of mobile home park violations and sends them to the Attorney General to help investigate, so that we're making sure that the mobile home park owners are not violating the law and that mobile home park residents have legal protections. And that was a very important bill that I am honored to work on with our own club member, Gail Rubino, who's holding me accountable, making sure we're not forgetting about our mobile home park residents. And, we have one of the largest mobile home parks in the state of California in our district, and we need to be doing a better job at doing protections for them that Gail will not let me forget. We have a whole host of others to expand. College Promise program, which offers free tuition for part-time community college students so that they can graduate without much debt, which is a huge crisis in our country. We have a bill that would give $300 back in earned income called the California Earned Income Tax Credit, and increasing that to $300 for anyone who is low income. And so most of this bill package you will see is identifying around addressing our most immediate support needs in the state of California and in our district. And aside from that, as Crystal mentioned, I'm really proud to lead a bipartisan effort to protect and save Head Start. And as many of you know, I grew up very poor, and I was a Head Start kid, and that's where I got fresh fruit for the first time in my life. That's where I had sometimes the only meal of the day was at Head Start. That's where I got a foundation to help set me up for the rest of my schooling. And that's where my single mom was able to go to work and have that childcare. And it's a federally run program. And in an leaked budget, the Trump administration had slashed it, along with very many others. So I did what I know how to do, which is I am a community organizer at heart, and I went to all my colleagues to sign this resolution letter to the congressional delegation, both Democrats and Republicans, and asked them to save it. Poverty doesn't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. In our rural communities, cutting Head Start would hurt them the most, arguably. And so I talked about it a lot and found out that my colleague, Assemblymember Heather Hadwick, Republican from Northern California, was also a Head Start graduate. And so we formed a bipartisan initiative where we broke the record for getting the most amount of signatures on one issue in one day. We had over 70 out of 80 Assembly members, over 22 Republicans, over 100 legislators in total, including the state senators, to lead a bipartisan effort to save Head Start. And it was picked up and syndicated by the Los Angeles Times, Mercury News, and others. And I say that because it's not always just about the bills, right? It's not always just about the legislation that you're passing. This was a letter asking the federal government not to cut this. And and it was because of those efforts that the Mercury News reporter who covered our story in our press conference called the dean of the Republican congressional delegation, Ken Calvert, who, out of so much pressure from the media storm that we made, went on record saying that the Republicans in California will not cut Head Start, and getting them on record saying that. Now, I know they're politicians, and so sometimes you got to make sure what they say and do are the same thing. But that was a huge step, getting a commitment from Republican congressional delegations, the dean of the Republican congressional delegation, committing on record saying that they will not cut Head Start funding in their final budget is huge. And that is what I campaigned on. I campaigned on wanting to work with anybody to help save our programs and focusing on children and families. And whether it be legislation, whether it be issue-oriented campaigns like this, or getting involved locally, making sure that we have smart, capable leaders who are joining our school boards and who are leading really the front lines of defense in so many areas, which I was so excited to be campaigning with Peggy Shin Brewster last year, who shares my values and our commitment about focusing on children and families and making sure that despite everything that we have a world-class education, because even here in Silicon Valley and in our district, we have homeless students who are here in the shelters, and we have families who are here in the shelters and who are living in their car. And that is not acceptable to me. And we need to have a sense of urgency about how to fix that. And this upcoming May revised budget that was sent out just a few days ago strips so much funding from schools, from our social safety net services. It cuts about $500 million from Planned Parenthood and others. And we need to remind the tyranny of Sacramento that the California legislature is a co-equal branch of government and that we need to negotiate in good faith with the governor and the Senate, that we need to restore and commit to protecting our most vulnerable constituencies, focus on children and families, and our basic rights and tenets as what it means to be a Democrat and working across the aisle, but not sacrificing our democratic values, and be able to call those out. So it has been an eventful 100 and or so days in the legislature. We're gearing up for a very hot summer of negotiating this budget, but I'm internally grateful to so many people in this room for your support and engagement back at home, and for following me along and holding me accountable to making sure that we're, despite the difficult budget situation, we're still delivering for the district, still working together. We just had leadership Sunnyvale come, where I hosted them to a behind the scenes tour of the legislature about how a bill becomes a law, and got to meet with some incredible stakeholders in Sacramento to really get behind the scenes to show leaders what is happening in Sacramento, how it happens, and what we can do to continue to raise up leaders locally so that they can be civically engaged, because it's about waking people up right now. And that's what we've seen in the aftermath of this election. That's what we've been demanding of our congressional leaders and our Senate leaders, is to wake up and start fighting back. I got a bird's eye view of that throughout the campaign when I was knocking on the doors. And even then, I felt people wanting to have fighters and to push back and to speak out. And I knew that just by being able to talk to thousands of you. And I'm grateful for people speaking out now, but we really need more people in the Democratic Party and more of our leaders to continue pushing on these issues, because we also represent all the Democrats who are not in this room, who are not engaged, but they're concerned about their families. They're concerned about where their children are going to go to school. And it's, our politics are getting angrier, and we need to show that there's a new way of doing this. There's a different way that we can bring people together. We can be a party that is a big tent with diverse opinions and ideas, but we're not going to scapegoat our immigrant community or other people and blame other people. We have to be about talking about the economy. I don't think the average constituent and voter has really changed from Bill Clinton's 1992 campaign of "it's about the economy, stupid." And when we veer away from that, and when we talk about a whole host of other issues, we're not addressing how hard it is to live in Silicon Valley. We're not addressing how hard it has been and how hard it's getting for the next generation. And we've got to focus on economic issues as a party. And so that is really what I have been clamoring about in Sacramento. That's what I hope to continue to do in my legislative package or in the things that I'm speaking up about. And, I will say that as frustrating as it is to work in Sacramento right now or be in politics right now, I absolutely have found how much I love this job that you all have given me and how every day when I walk into the Capitol and do the work, I am reminded that you all put me there and that I have a responsibility to be accessible and engage with you all. That doesn't mean that we're always going to agree on every issue or every vote, but that's why I've made it a commitment to have monthly community coffees and donuts and discussions or Sunnyvale policy and pancake breakfasts um, once a month, so that anyone can come up and talk to me about whatever issue that they have going on or yell at me about whatever issue that they disagree with me on. But that is the basic tenet of our American political experiment in this country, is that you get to come to me. I don't want to hide behind a newsletter or an office or on social media. I want to be accessible. That's why I want to make myself available now. And I want to continue doing that for you all because, I did not get, you know, I, I don't have infinite wisdom that I'm bringing to Sacramento. These ideas that I'm pushing and fighting for are the culmination of experiences and conversations that I've had with all of you, with Head Start and all these other issues. They came from constituents being worried and scared and demanding, what am I doing and what is Sacramento doing to protect them? And so I'm very, very grateful for this opportunity, and I really do see it as a service and a servant leadership style that I'm trying to display, and really incredibly grateful for that. So with that, would love to open up to any questions. Thank you.
All right. Why don't we start with questions from the room, and then online, please use your hand raise, and we'll get to questions online as well. Yes, we also have Julia Miller here, board member of the El Camino Hospital District.
Thank you for being here, Assemblymember, and for all your work. Thank you for stating and recognizing that Sunnyvale has so many mobile home parks. I'm intrigued with the support for college students. We on the board of El Camino Healthcare District are looking at that in the next 2 months about using our community benefit funds to support students in need at our community colleges. So keep me posted on that bill, please.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think as you know, Julia and others, community college students, I'm a big believer in, the community colleges are a huge key of economic opportunity and mobility, no matter what walk of life you come from. And we need to be supporting it more. We need to be supporting our trades programs more, and the amazing careers that good union jobs in our trades programs bring, and our partnerships with organized labor, and as well as transfer into a four-year degree. There's a lot of opportunities and options for people from all walks of life. And that has to be a part of our solution in our economic package. Count me in.
All right, I see Bruce Payton here in the room. He's our vice president of the Sunnyvale Democratic Club.
Patrick, I keep reading about the budget cuts happening to the CSU system. And I'm just wondering, what are the opportunities there to be able to protect at least some of that funding?
Well, there was initially proposed cuts. We're still digesting and sifting through the May revise, but my understanding is that some of those cuts, it looks like may be restored, maybe not all of them, but some of them not as deep. But as a public school kid through and through, Bookser Middle School, Santa Clara High School, De Anza Community College, UCLA, and San Jose State for my master's degree. I'm one of the most vocal opponents of any cuts to our higher education programs. These are shutting out effectively seats for students who are the first in the family to go to college, who again, all they want to do is doing what we told them to do, which is if you study hard and go to college, you'll get a good job. And that California promise has been broken. That is no longer the case. Good jobs are not readily available for folks, even though that was the promise that we told them growing up. And when you do graduate, you're graduating with a mountain of debt, which makes them further fall behind in their ability to be able to own a home and the communities that they grew up in, and hinders their ability to do well. And so, you know, education is a game changer. It's one of the only pieces in our state budget that you invest money in and you actually get a return on your investment. You get, for every dollar, you get like $8 or $9 of investment. So this actually saves us money and makes money for the state of California in the long run, because we've getting these amazing graduates, getting these amazing jobs, and paying those high taxes in California. Like, we want more graduates. We want more trained and skilled professionals. And cutting higher education budget in a time where academia is under attack, being, loving the law and loving learning is under attack from the federal government, and fringe elements that we were always laughing at for decades is now not going away, and it's becoming mainstream, and we need to fight back against that. And these academic institutions are a bastion of political free speech and thought, and we need to protect those things, because these great debates that we're having in Sacramento and here locally, and the turmoil of the state of the California and the country and our party and the future of our party, those are happening in classrooms at the CSUs and UCs and community colleges, and critical thinking skills are being debated and won, and people awaken themselves through those rigorous debates. And they can't do that if they don't have access. And we can't do that if we're going to cut the CSU and UC and community college budgets. And so I'm going to be fighting back on that quite a bit.
Yeah, hi, Patrick.
Hi.
So Patrick, you have a whole bunch of bills here. Tell the people of the Sunnyvale Democratic Club how we can help you support these bills. Do we need to do postcards and that kind of stuff? Or
Thank you.
calls?
Thank you. Yes. I'll send you, we have pass out our bill package. We'll send it to you online, or contact me or my office if you wanted to learn more. If any of them speak to you, I would love your support to call your state senator, because after the appropriations deadline, if it makes it out of many of these out of appropriations, then it goes to the state senate. So call your state senator and urge their support of any of my bills. And letter writing, Khalil is here from my team in the back. He will get you set up about who to call or who to email or who to write, or who to speak to about supporting this. Would love anybody's engagement on that. Or you can post on social media. Hi, Stuart.
Hi, thank you. So I've been reading a lot lately about the governor's push, and sounds like also the San Jose mayor's push to do more homeless encampment sweeps. And I'm really concerned that those sweeps are really a way of hiding a problem that's very severe rather than solving the problem. I understand there's a lot of factors, but I hope that these things can be handled as compassionately as possible. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on kind of what that direction that we're seeing from our governor, and how we can handle it better.
Thank you, Stuart. I mean, you're hitting on one of the most hotly contested issues facing Sacramento, facing our local politics right now, which is there is a strong desire to want to acknowledge and help the homeless and help the most vulnerable among us. I understand that very personally as someone who is formerly unhoused. I think that where we disagree in our politics is what to do about that. And I think there's such a debate right now between being, having that compassion and humanity for what is happening and the crisis that is happening on our streets, and wanting accountability from government and wanting to see something happen. And everyone who is treating this issue with compassion and humanity, I think is right on the money. And I even think people who are pushing these accountability metrics in many ways are also coming at this from a humane perspective, the way they see the issue. The problem where we disagree is the desire to want to show progress. And the reality is that we have spent billions and billions and billions of dollars, over your taxpayer dollars and mine, on trying to address the housing affordability crisis and specifically the homelessness crisis. And we have very, very little to show for it. Very, very disappointing. And that is from someone who is one of the only formerly unhoused legislators in the state of California. And we can be disappointed and want metrics and want to see progress without, villainizing who the homeless are and treating them humanely. So I admire the work that the activists and the people that are dedicating their lives, the nonprofit leaders, the community leaders who are attempting to address these problems. But we've got to be smarter about these politics. And I think criminalizing the homelessness is not the way to go. That being said, we need to work with the governor and the San Jose mayor and our city council here in Sunnyvale and me to convene more of these conversations to find a better way to do this. We need accountability. We need to spend our taxpayer dollars wisely, but we also can't do it in a way that says this is the way we have to go. It's who you bring with you in these policies, right? And it's the education of what these policies are as much as it is the policy itself. And it's not enough to be right in politics. You've got to convince the public for these programs to work. And I think there's a lot of frustration that the current way of doing things is not working. And they're right. The people who are frustrated and want change and progress on this are absolutely right. But the activists who are also right in wanting to say we need to do something about this. I think there's a different way entirely of doing this, which is actually resolving and offering and building more housing, more interim housing, and working with every level of government. I've talked about this a lot in the campaign trail. I'm talking about it a lot in my bill package. We need to build more tiny homes. We need to work with the county. We need to work with our community colleges. We need to work with our school districts, but the reality is that we can't subscribe to the current policies out there. Because it's all it's doing is dividing our community. And as a state assembly member, I need to be able to look people in the eye and saying that I did everything I could to convene these groups together and go about this a completely different way. And being this harsh without bringing everyone together and moving forward. That doesn't mean we all have to agree, by the way. We're not going to on how to address homelessness, but we need to respond to the frustration and the billions of dollars that are not working. And by the way, it's also this idea is also reminiscent of the Obama administration and him and his administration saving the auto industry. It's hard to get credit for that, and it's hard to see the depth of devastation it would be to save the American auto industry from going under because we bailed them out. and the jobs that we protected, and union jobs protected, and the livelihoods we protected, is the same thing here. We have invested billions of dollars, but we've also saved thousands and thousands of people from getting homeless in the first place. And you're not ever going to see that on a spreadsheet or on the 5 o'clock news. And so the problem is locally and statewide, more people are becoming homeless faster than we're saving them. So yes, it's not no progress because we are actually helping a lot of people, not fall into homelessness, but we got to stop fighting each other, and we got to come up with a better task force and work together instead of, fighting back and forth with the county and the city and the state of California. Like, people want to be tough on crime. We want to see like we have all the answers and we're moving forward on it. But I'm not going to say that we do, because not everyone who's homeless is on drugs, or there's not a one size fits all policy here that a lot of stereotypes are. Some people are dealing with addiction. Some people are dealing with mental health issues, which we've abandoned and don't like talking about in our politics or our policy. Some people just, are 1 or 2 paychecks away from being homeless themselves, and they're not mentally ill, and they don't have any addiction issues. There are so many different reasons, and there's so many different solutions to prevent that too. And so that's what makes this all so hard, on top of how expensive it is just to live and work in this valley and be able to afford housing to begin with. And this turning point in our country where we've let out and with the Reagan administration, closed a lot of our mental health wards and hospitals and sort of abandoned them. And that's why you have such a high percentage of mentally ill people who are on the streets, because we are failing them. And these are poverty-stricken decisions and policy choices that we can absolutely change on our watch, but we have to turn back to economic issues and the economy.
Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate especially what you said about not making it a criminal issue and about building more housing. I appreciate all your opinions. Thank you.
We've got Martha Minestrina here.
I was just wondering, you talked about tiny homes and stuff, and I'm pretty ignorant on the subject of homelessness. I do care about it, but I don't follow along. So I was just wondering, what is working? Do you have specific examples that you've seen that have worked? And also, this is a 2-part question, about, do you know about the care court that Gavin Newsom started? Is that working? And so anyway, can you elaborate on those 2 things?
Absolutely. You mentioned 2 very good examples of probably dozens and dozens of measures to prevent homelessness and to solve homelessness. So the Tiny Homes Initiative is, generally speaking, temporary housing, quick builds or prefab housing that's usually done. I know that we have several of them throughout Santa Clara County that are usually all temporary housing and all meant to provide immediate support relief of getting folks who are unhoused off the streets and getting them, in a home first strategy. And they're usually, there's been efforts to build them on county fairgrounds. There's been efforts to build them on Caltrans property, on city property, and spread throughout our communities and county. They're not meant to be permanent. These are tiny homes. They're usually a shared bathroom on site. They're usually, prefab. They're very small, very modest, single bedroom situations. They have shared kitchens. Some of them are different, but they're basically meant to be quick builds, quick installation, spread throughout the county. The problem is that the solution to also the care court is an initiative that Governor Newsom has enacted to try and enforce more people who are facing serious challenges, to force them to try and get a court order to get them treatment and get them help. Again, trying to force those conversations. And this is where I wholeheartedly agree with tough love in the sense that there's the current way we have been doing things without care court is people are dying on our streets and people are continuing to die on our streets. And the care court is controversial because it needs to be better funded and we need to have solutions. So if you're going to have a court order on getting treatment or getting help, getting housing, there has to be treatment beds and housing to fulfill those court orders. So yes, that includes tiny home initiatives that are available for people. That should include permanent supportive housing that's available for people. These tiny home initiatives are meant to be temporary. Well, where are they going to go after? You can't just stay in the tiny home. That's not a dignified place to live long term.
That's
so
my concern. What is working,
everything needs to be working. So it's working if all the pieces are put together. The tiny homes initiative is wonderful. By itself, it won't work. The care court system is wonderful. By itself, it won't work. We need the multitude to work. And the problem is that everything's so expensive and you wrap everything together and our bureaucracies are terrible at communicating to each other. They silo out. The county does what the county does. The city does what the city does. The school districts are doing what the school districts are doing. We're all serving the same populations of students and people and vulnerable populations. There's no coordinated bodies. And when push comes to shove and the public wants accountability, we point fingers. Oh, this is the county's fault. This is the county's charge. The school district needs to just deal with this and figure this out. The state assembly, the tyranny of Sacramento, I'm not doing enough. It's the mayor's fault. And it's like, there's the blame game. And I am done with that. I am done with the blame game. I'm not going to sit here and point fingers and saying, the county's not doing enough. Go yell at them. No, it's my responsibility to make sure that this is happening as much as everyone else. And so you've been seeing this in the Mercury News and others where people, county, cities, the governor, everyone's blaming each other for this. And no one's saying, let's all work together. The county, city, school districts, the state assembly, we all have responsibility to protect and help these people. If we all do our part and do a little bit, these are not overwhelming issues. Poverty is a policy choice. We've done incredible things. When I was growing up, I went into lunch debt because my family couldn't afford the lunch. Then we enacted the free and reduced lunch program where we put all the poor kids in one line. And we had that. Now it's universal. Now it's free. That started out was an impossibility. We can't possibly feed all the school children. We can't afford that. Well, we clearly can because it's a policy decision that we made. And so it's getting that shift. That was decades in the making. We need to focus more on economic issues and say by itself, addressing these homelessness issues are overwhelming for the courts, for this county, for the tiny homes, for cities and counties. But if we all join forces and work more across the aisle and work more interagency work, we can get the bureaucracy to move. We can get all these interagencies to move and create relief because everyone's working on them. That's why on the community college board, we're investing in housing. When we first started talking about it, that's not their responsibility. They're community college. Everyone just commutes. Well, no, we have a huge homelessness problem for our students at the community college level. We have to meet the need where it is, not say that that's somebody else's fault. So I'm never going to stick up here and say any one program is working because they don't work by themselves. They have to have a transition plan. You get people off the street and immediate support in the tiny homes. You get the care court mandating care, but that means the funding the care has to be there. The psychiatric beds have to be there if that's the situation. The permanent supportive housing has to be there towards the end in 5 or 8 or 10 months. We should prioritize families and children first initiative where we can eliminate children poverty and children homelessness if we focus and improve on that, not to blame and say the county has to do this. We all have a responsibility to do it. We just need to stop the finger pointing and get elected officials to stand up and say, let's do this. that is what I'm begging our leaders to do, and I'm going to continue to be engaging with them. Thank you for that question.
Paul Fong with a question.
Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Paul.
You know that I'm a badass homie from North Sunnyvale. So,
Yes, you are a badass homie.
okay. And I also represent minority interests. And there's a minority group right now that's being under attack. And that's the Palestinian American community. And I'm glad you took your authorship off of AB 714 because you authored AB 1468, which was to influence ethnic studies in a negative way. And I'm glad you killed that bill. But AB 715 is no different. You're getting into the classroom and you're telling the teacher how to teach a class a subject matter. And you're going to have an Israeli Gestapo looking over the teacher's curriculum to make sure that it's not anti-Semitic. And I can tell you that I teach about Israel oppression towards the Palestinians, and that would be considered anti-Semitic. And so, they will influence the way I teach a class. That's why I look at it. But I attended the Palestinian flag raising ceremony today, and the way they look at it is that Jewish caucus is trying to erase the Palestinian American community. That's the way they look at it. And I just want to see how you see AB 715, that bill.
Thank you for that softball question, Paul. Well, I can speak for myself and say that I'm not here to work in the legislature or locally to erase any community. I'm here to work and in collaboration with a very diverse caucus on a whole host of issues. There are so many differences of opinion on just addressing how we focus on housing in that last question to the very subject that you brought up. And my desire is that we fully fund ethnic studies and fully teach ethnic studies in our schools, and that we root out all forms of hate, whether it be Islamophobia or anti-Semitism or the rise in Asian hate and Asian hate crimes, which is probably one of the fastest growing hate crimes since the pandemic and beyond. I will say that, as I've said with AB 1468, I believe, the ethnic studies bill that is not moving forward, is that with, I believe it's 715, that, I'm going to give due consideration for addressing those issues. I've heard a lot of people write in and call in to my office on various differences of opinion about what 715 does or does not do. And I'm looking forward to that robust discussion. But at the end of the day, there is a rise in hate crimes in all of these communities, and we cannot have them in our community. We can't have them in our schools. How we go about addressing that is going to vary from person to person. So I am still being educated on a lot of these issues, but what I can say is, I made myself available and accessible to as many people as I can to hear directly from them. And academic freedom is very important to me, as you know, Paul, working for you, and also working at the community colleges, and how important academic freedom was and how much I fought for it at the community college level, and will continue to fight for it and work with our faculty and making sure that their rights are protected as well. And I will say that I know that the Jewish caucus, the API caucus, the Black caucus, and the Latino caucus and others are working together on negotiating the full merits of this language. I don't know if that is going to be, the proposed language is going to be the final version, but I'm going to be advocating for ensuring that we have a robust debate and agreement on what the final language of the bill, that, if this is the bill that decides to go forward, includes measures to root out misinformation about what the bill is and is not. But I've been hearing a lot about it.
All right, we do have a question online. It was in the chat and it was from Gita. And Gita, I invite you to unmute and ask your question directly if you can.
Hi, Gita. Does someone want to?
Can you read it? Okay.
Okay, this is from Gita, who's no longer online. Dear dear Assemblymember Patrick, recent cuts are having a devastating impact on the special education community in Santa Clara County. Programs that serve students with higher needs, county-run programs that regular schools cannot support, are being shut down and moved into schools that are unprepared to handle them. Compounding the issue, during a recent governance meeting, district superintendents admitted they intentionally blocked families from transferring to districts with better fitting programs to avoid paying the cost to the receiving district. This practice disincentivizes capable districts from creating strong special education programs. For example, FUHSD Superintendent Graham Clark shared that while he's building a new program, it's financially unviable if other districts won't allow students to enroll. As a result, families are trapped in districts that cannot meet their children's needs. I have two key requests. Legislative proposal: could you support adding a parent-led accountability mechanism to the education code, specifically a requirement for each district to establish a special education committee composed of parents? And secondly, funding support. Can you help identify funding avenues or legislative actions to reverse these cuts so that these existing services aren't lost and quality programs can be preserved and expanded? Thank you for your attention to these urgent issues impacting our most vulnerable students.
Well, thank you, Gita, for that question. Yeah, like I said, with our higher education question, I'm a public school kid through and through. I actually had an IEP growing up and a learning disability. And I know what it's like to go through public education in a severely underfunded special education program. And there's silver linings in creating more awareness about the support needs that parents have when it comes to making sure that they know that extra help or special education or specifically tailored IEP programs are available to them. But it also puts a huge strain on our local school budgets. And that's frankly because Sacramento has chronically underfunded our schools for decades and not fully funded these programs, and which unfortunately puts these administrators and parents and teachers in very strained positions to be able to continue to operate and moving forward. I'm open to any suggestions about how we help our special education programs, whether it be a parent-led initiative, whether it be fighting to restore those cuts from the May revise and beyond, whether it be other solutions to create more transparency, because a lot of this is funding issues, but a lot of it's access issues too. A lot of parents are not fully informed about what resources are available for their kids who need extra help or who may not need an IEP, and they're just not aware because we don't readily make it available enough. You have to fight to figure out in public school what are your rights and what you are entitled to and what school districts you can transfer to ultimately get the rights and education that your children are entitled to have in the state of California. So there needs to be accountability in terms of access, but you can certainly count on me to continue fighting, as I've mentioned, for a strong, fully funding and rigorous education system that includes everyone, especially our special education kids. And then Khalil, if you can make note, we'll follow up on those bill ideas.
Right. Any other questions in the room or online? Yes. Margaret Lawson.
Hi, Patrick. Of all these bills, you said they came out of Assembly. Do you think most of them will pass the Senate, or where does it go?
I'm sure all of them will.
Of course. Oh, well, because we know they're so well written.
Well, as I said, the vast majority of my bills are focusing on anti-poverty, as I committed to in the campaign. I think that when addressing poverty issues, they cost money. I think everyone loves to ask in Sacramento, what do poor people need? And they don't need other special expensive programs. They need money. That is what they need. It's that simple. And so whether it be the California Earned Income Tax Credit, giving people back their earned income, these are not handouts. This is money that they earned, and giving them an extra $300 instead of the state of California, because we've been known to not spend that money very wisely or efficiently. That doesn't ultimately trickle down to help people. But what we know through guaranteed income programs, through this earned income tax credit, is that you give poor people money, and guess what they spend it on? Food, groceries, utility bills, rent, immediate support and relief needs. All of this money is going back into the economy and helping stabilize our communities. They're not putting it under their mattress or spending it frivolously. They're spending it on protecting and helping their families and themselves, and trying to address the high costs of healthcare, which is in a crisis, of education, which is in a crisis, of the price of groceries and just the price to live. That's what they're spending it on. We don't need to collect more money from people making $31,000 a year and say, we'll take that extra $300. We know how to best do that. No, they're making $31,000 a year in Silicon Valley. That's just, I don't know how people are living on that. And they're not doing it very well, and they're hurting and they're struggling. And so that would cost money out of the budget because we wouldn't be taking it from them. And so anything that costs money in the state budget right now is going to be hard. Paul Fong, who's here, knows how hard he had to make very difficult decisions when he was an assembly member for this seat during the Great Recession, and how painful those cuts were. We're entering in very difficult and similar budget times right now. But I will tell you one thing as a slight tangent, Margaret, is whenever there are cuts, we always look at the programmatic cuts, shrink the size of government. But we never want to talk about the $84 billion a year in corporate tax breaks that the state of California gives out. Billions of dollars. Some may be laudable, but all or none get regularly reviewed by the state of California in a transparent way. And so I'm pressing more of our leaders as a member of the Progressive Caucus to have serious discussions during this budget cycle, and perhaps set up a select committee next year on saying, if your tax breaks and incentives are so wonderful, you should have no problem coming before the legislature and explaining that in a transparent manner. Some of them will protect union jobs. Some of them do spur wealth and economic activity and help people. Some of them, I'm not so sure. But either way, let's put that on the table along with the programmatic cuts, not just always go after our social safety net services and our education. If we want to balance the budget like we're constitutionally mandated to do, everything needs to be on the table, not just let's cut government, let's cut the poor. We're not going to balance these budgets on the back of the poor, because guess what? It's all going to cost us more money in the long run. Cutting healthcare, cutting education, cutting all these social safety net services is just going to cost us way more in the long run. And all I'm saying is something that sounds very modest, but it's very controversial in Sacramento, which is regularly review the corporate tax breaks that we give out in this state and make them defend why that's important. And if you care so much about it and it's so wonderful, then say that and back up with proof. And if it's not, then maybe the state of California needs to review that, claw that money back so we can invest it and not cut our most vulnerable populations.
All right, maybe if there's no other questions in the room or online. Oh, there's one more here. Mike Cerrone.
So Patrick, last month you had, or well, maybe a couple weeks ago, you had a great event at the Agri-Hood down in Santa Clara, which is a beautiful facility. It's got a community garden and a lot of affordable housing. And I well remember when that was being proposed and finally got in, but it struck me looking at that under current state law, it would be impossible to do a project like that with unlimited waivers and a lot of the other things that are written into law now. Uh, we wouldn't be able to get any sort of amenity, or the coffee shop would also not be there, and no community rooms. Is there any movement or interest in maybe looking at some of the many housing bills and have some ways to preserve amenities for some of these communities, and in particularly, I'm thinking here in North Sunnyvale, where we're about to lose probably a lot of retail, if not all of it, and so somehow to balance the obviously we need the housing desperately, but maybe ways to permit more housing to and in order to pay for the amenities.
Yes. Again, one of the most hotly contested issues is the local control and the housing bill fights in Sacramento and locally that are happening and raging that I'm stepping into as a new legislator. I will say that we have to build 2.5 million homes. And I will say that there is intense desire to speed up this process. While you were talking, I'm reminded of this book that I'm reading, Abundance by Ezra Klein, I believe. And if you haven't read that book yet, I highly encourage you to do it. It's creating a lot. I think it's a New York Times bestseller, and all of the Democratic leaders are going crazy over it. And people have negative and positive opinions about it. But essentially, it's talking about how, Democrats are kind of getting our own way and we're not as good as governing. And there's a whole host of issues that they brought up, and how difficult it is to deliver on these results in these big Democratic cities in the state and big Democratic states, of all of these barriers. And when we talk about housing, and so many people I think are very forward thinking and want to build housing, like you had mentioned, Mike, but there's also protections put in place that we have because we want environmental protections, and we want parks to be funded, and we want all these added, and we want retail to be protected, and we want our grocery stores to be protected. I know on Fair Oaks and Lakewood, we're potentially losing these grocery stores where we're not going to have an available grocery store, for our urban villages plans, which is, that promise that you can walk or bike to your nearest grocery store. And that's not happening in some of the poorest areas in Sunnyvale. And all in the name of housing, right? These exemptions in the name of housing, which we have to be more aggressive about building, but it's also coming at that expense. And so I've been approached by a lot of residents, including our city council and mayor, about we need housing, but we also need to protect our retail spots, especially our groceries. And so I'm currently in discussions about introducing a bill to do protections on, yes, build housing, but if you're going to replace it with a certain square footage, needs to be preserved for our grocery stores if there's not an available grocery store within a certain square mileage. Now, some will see that as anti-housing because they're stifling housing innovation. It's expensive to build housing, but we're sacrificing that walkability and bikeability. We're sacrificing, poor communities are saying we don't deserve to have those in those areas. And it's creating these weird trade-offs between the housing advocates of housing at all costs and others, not to mention the multiple CEQA reform bills that we have going on, and ranging from environmentalists and stakeholders demanding that we protect CEQA and protect our environmental quality in California, and advocates also saying that people are hiding behind CEQA to block housing production, which is, both are true, right? And so that is the heart of the housing debates in the state of California. So I am sponsoring a CEQA reform bill right now that is getting me probably a lot of call-ins and emails about, but we need to build housing and we need to reduce these barriers to build housing. We need to streamline it. We need to make it shorter process, but we cannot do that while in sacrificing our environmental protections either. So there needs to be middle ground, and that's the deliberative negotiation process that the state of California is having, and why people are frustrated writ large in Sacramento right now, because we're seen as taking away that local control. And we're not trying to. I guarantee you, no one in Sacramento wants this control over housing. We don't want, but left to our own devices, we're not building housing fast enough. That's why I'm really excited to see so many different housing proposals go about and thinking outside the box. Not every idea is something that everyone agrees in, but we're throwing these ideas out there. I want community colleges to build more housing. Alex Lee wants social housing. Right now, cities don't build housing, right? Developers do. And so we're at the whim of the private sector and reaching our housing goals. And he's talking about something, a very interesting idea, which is social housing. Not everyone agrees with that. In fact, there's large corporate forces that disagree with it. But he's putting ideas out there. I'm putting ideas out there. They're not always going to be popular with everybody, but we need to have these discussions, because what I say to the naysayers is, if you don't like these ideas, then what's your plan? What is your plan to fix these issues? And more often than not, they don't have one. But the status quo is not acceptable to me. And so we're going to be engaging in these conversations about it.
Right. Thank you. I'm just going to take the last question, and it'll be a true softball question because you've had so many hard questions. So you knew what you were getting into when you ran for this role, having worked for your predecessor. What is something that has surprised you in moving into the role?
What has surprised me about moving into this role the most? I would say that I think I've had over 1,500 meetings since getting elected. And what has surprised me the most about this role is the impact, I think, that and the responsibility that I can have on seeing issues arise, and how, even though we don't control the Congress, how we were able to get Republicans on the record saying that they won't cut Head Start through the initiative that I led. Even though, we may disagree politically from other Democrats, there's a lot of different shades of blue in Sacramento, and there's a lot of different motivations. But you see, as former Assemblymember Paul Fong, who's here, knows, there's 80 Assembly members and there's 80 different ways to do the same job. And we come from very different backgrounds in Central Valley, Silicon Valley, Northern California, Southern California. We represent different constituencies, and people are there for vastly different reasons. And what has surprised me is how, if you do put in work, you can convince people, and you can care, and you can prioritize, and you can work together on things. Even though our politics are really angry right now, I was still able to get 20 Republicans to agree with me to not cut Head Start. And even though that we're debating hotly contested issues right now, whether they be, international, Middle East crisis, terrible, horrible things that are happening around the world, we talk about, to very localized, my grocery store is going away, to everything in between. You can find common ground on it. And what has surprised me is that even though I may have policy differences with my colleagues, both Democrat and Republican, I have found that it's relationships that matter more. And the relationships that you develop with your colleagues are just as important as your policy positions, because they're willing to work with you and stretch with you if you have that relationship of trust and of friendship. and the desire that we're all trying to do this to improve California and improve our constituencies and the lives that people have. And we may disagree how to get there, but they're willing to take a chance on my bill or their bill because you develop that relationship with them of trust and of understanding and of respect for one another. And it's the people that don't do that that are not very successful in the legislature or in politics in general. And we all know who those people are. But I will say, just like locally, whether it be in our club, whether it be in the state house, whether it be on the school boards or in the city councils, those who develop relationships with each other, they understand and care. And my number one issue may not be my colleague's number one issue, but if you develop that trust and respect, you're able to convince them and move people along. And that's what ultimately the legislature and these bodies are about, as elected officials know the most, is it's about not just about what you believe. How good are you at convincing others? How good are you at building coalitions with people that may not agree with you? And how do you move them along? And that is what I'm trying to do by being accessible, by hosting monthly meetings. Is, I may not subscribe or agree with everything that all of my constituents are asking of me, but I want to learn and I want to continue the dialogue so that I can be the best representative that I can be for Silicon Valley.
Well, thank you so much for your work and your dedication to this democracy cause.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our friends online. Thank you so much. So do you want me to leave? Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Welcome to stay for the rest of the trip. All right, so we'll transition to our next topic, which is an introduction to Indivisible Palo Alto Plus as a group. And Julaine Rossner from that group will give us an introduction and also introduce herself. Julaine, are you ready?
Hi, how are you? Thank you. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. I actually brought some slides, so if I could share my screen, that would be great. And just I want to just give everybody a wave out there in El Dorado. My name is Julaine Rosner, and I live in Palo Alto. But I used to I work in Santa Clara, and I used to ride my bike all the time past past the places, past Amigos, Mobile Home, and I can picture exactly where you are. So hi everybody, thank you so much for welcoming me here. I am a member of Indivisible in Palo Alto. And I feel very close to Sunnyvale because I have lived in this area a long time. And my husband used to work at NASA Ames, and I used to work at REI in Sunnyvale back when it was on Homestead. So I thank you so much for welcoming me here today. Can you all see my slides?
Yes, we can see in the room.
Excellent. So I'm here to sort of welcome you to IPA Plus and encourage you to join. One thing that I love about being part of this organization, which I just recently joined, is that they give us practical suggestions to promote democracy. And we are looking to, promote democratic norms, involve broad segments of the Peninsula community, build the Peninsula pro-democracy movement, support vulnerable groups targeted by Trump administration, and attract attention of media and public officials. So I just wanted to tell you briefly what we're doing. We want to build community and partnerships and welcome you to join. And so our regular events, one of the best things that I get from being part of Indivisible, and by the way, it's Indivisible Palo Alto Plus, because we have people from Mountain View, Palo Alto, San Carlos, Sunnyvale. It is the greater Palo Alto community. And so I want to just clarify that it's a group for all. And one of the helpful things that members get are weekly communication from our local leaders with practical steps to support democracy. These emails have a focus topic for the week. They give us suggestions for calls and other outreach to make that are not very hard. We can just do that on a daily basis and let our leadership know, both in Sacramento and DC, what we want. And they also encourage consistent postcarding events. So that also is really helpful for me as an individual at this era. And IPA Plus emails are just super hopeful and help me kind of combat the despair that I've been feeling about all these cuts and chaos in DC. And so the messages kind of summarize some of the wins and progress that we have been making and express solidarity. So I love those weekly emails. I know we all get a ton, but they are very useful. And wanted to just tell you about it. We also have regular in-person events, which are at the First Presbyterian in Palo Alto, and that's the second Saturday of the month. That doesn't conflict with your meeting, does it, Mike?
No, we're the third Saturday.
The third Saturday. And at those meetings, we foster connection, offer information, outline these practical steps that are really crucial for forging ahead. And of course, we focus on peaceful, nonviolent resistance, and we brainstorm future actions. So they're really heartening and wonderful combat to some of the despair. I don't know about you, but I have been feeling that certainly. And also through Indivisible, and anybody can receive this on the website, is to follow their practical guide to democracy on the brink. This is it's just a couple pages, and it just has these excellent strategies, tactics, of things that everyone can do. It's really useful. So I'd like to also talk about some of the regular in-person actions we've been taking, and we want to invite everybody to join. I know in Sunnyvale, you have Tesla protests. But if I don't know if those always fit your schedule, but IPA Plus, Indivisible Palo Alto Plus, sponsors Wednesday and Saturday afternoon protest at the Tesla dealership right on El Camino in Palo Alto. And oh, thank you, Ambrosia, for sharing the resource guide in the chat. And I also want to I'm also sending in the chat a welcome to IPA Plus letter with all of these links embedded. So the Tesla takedown movement is, of course, happening in your neck of the woods in Sunnyvale. These are peaceful, nonviolent demonstration to speak our voice about the self-dealing that Elon Musk has been able to undertake as part of Doge, right? I mean, the actions that Doge has taken to remove federal workers and basically vandalize the federal government. They're just breathtaking, honestly. And, firing people who would maybe regulate self-driving cars or, regulate his SpaceX companies, they just can't go unquestioned. So these are really fun events. It feels awkward to stand there, sure, on the sidewalk, but they are very effective. So I invite you to join. IPA Plus sponsors our local protest at the Tesla dealership on El Camino. There's also one at Stanford Shopping Center, sponsored by another organization, and you can find out more at #TeslaTakedown. You can see we have a lot of fun, and people wear costumes, and it's good. So please join and consider your local protest too. It makes a difference. The next thing I'd like to ask you to do, let's see, I got something in the chat. Okay, Sandy Spire chimes in that in Sunnyvale, it's Saturday from 2 to 4, and I'm not quite sure where that Sunnyvale dealership is, but it's a good time and it makes a difference. So I also want to ask you to support federal workers. You guys, right? We live here in the Bay, in South Bay. There are so many federal workers at NASA Ames, I'm sure in Social Security administration buildings and all over the Bay Area. And federal workers are really under attack. And they are the professional civil servants that provide us with, provide our administration with guidelines and make sure that they act lawfully and protect our citizens. And there is now a proposed policy, excuse me, to be able to reclassify federal workers. And this policy would make them easier to fire. And these comments are due by May 23rd, right? So I want to just share with you, I found out about this public comment submission toolkit. So when we submit suggestions to make changes at the to policy, it's not the same as just calling your congressperson. They filter out for form letters, right? Or things that are rote, right? And I'm going to put this link in the chat, but I did put I did put the link to this in the letter, and I will share it with Mike. All right, can you guys see this public comment toolkit?
Yes, we see it.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so this public comment toolkit is basically explains how people can comment on this new policy that would make it easy to fire hundreds of thousands of federal employees and replace them with political loyalists. So you can go here and read the new policy, which kind of sounds benign. Agency supervisors report great difficulty removing employees for poor performance or misconduct. The proposed rule lets policy influencing. Who are policy influencing positions, I wonder, be moved into schedule policy career. These positions will remain career jobs filled on a nonpartisan basis. It will allow agencies to quickly remove employees from critical positions who engage in misconduct, perform poorly, or undermine the democratic process by intentionally subverting presidential directives. Can you all, I want to just make sure. Yeah, you guys can see that. So this public comment guide allows can help you to submit a comment, and that's by May 23rd, which is next Friday. So your voice really matters. This document kind of tells you how to craft your comment. It should be unique and should not submit generic text from comment campaigns. And this toolkit provides a template. It also helps you to use ChatGPT prompts to better craft your argument. Now, don't worry. Don't spend too much time making it very well written. These are reviewed quickly, but they are reviewed. They are required to review them. So don't give confidential or sensitive information. And of course, no threats, insults, or content that is not related to policy. So I've put that in the chat, and I will share this letter, which includes that with Michael, and hopefully you guys can submit a public comment, because our civil servants are really the professionals that make sure that our government works. And this is a policy that would be, I think, deleterious and cause for more, politicization. So I don't know. The only thing I learned in the COVID, well, one of the things I learned in COVID is how to use a QR code. Perhaps you are interested in using that QR code to reach the public comment toolkit. Another suggestions for angles for commenting is that this is sort of a mischaracterization of civil service protections. They can be removed, right? And it undermines the merit system principles. There's legal vulnerabilities in changing this policy and potential for litigation, and it risks politicization of the civil service. So please submit a comment by May 23rd. I want to also invite you to our upcoming community event, which is No King's Day, Nationwide Day of Defiance on June 14th, which is also Flag Day. And in Palo Alto, we're going to have a No Kings parade and festival for democracy on Saturday, June 14th. There's going to be a parade at 1:00, and it will end and the parade will end at Rinconada Park, and when the festival begins at 2 p.m. So we haven't figured out the parade route, but we will. And we just kind of want to contrast this military parade with fun and family-friendly fun in the parade. And we'll be hosting a resistance fair where there'll be lab workshops, climate justice, tables for signing up for activism, and a few short speeches. Finally, I just want to invite you to join IPA Plus. This is Greater Palo Alto, lots of people from up and down the peninsula and the South Bay, and support democracy. The website is right here. And if you want to reach me, oh gosh, these hyperlinks, you can't see. I have Julaine_Rosner at yahoo.com. So I hope I didn't whip through those too quickly, but any questions for me?
All right. Any questions in the room for Julaine? Or online? You can raise your hand digitally.
I will definitely share that letter with Mike, and in the chat I'll put all of the links to those actions. I just want to encourage all of you to join Indivisible, to combat despair and just feel like you can do something actionable. So thank you so much.
Yeah, Julaine, thank you so much for speaking to the club. We've all been wondering, how to support and resist, and these are really good actions. And I hope the club members are took note of that website and
Oh yeah, no,
um,
there's several websites I
yeah,
listed there. And I'll also share that email, that invitation to join email with Mike, and he can
super.
distribute.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, we're going to move on to our last item for today, which is our executive board election. And I do want to say that we have, I wanted to thank our nominating committee and our elections committee. So including Peggy Shem Brewster, Eileen Lay, Sandy Spires, Ambrosia, and Mara Kane. So I want to thank all those people. I also wanted to thank our board members who served in the last year and who decided not to run for re-election. So that includes Julia Miller and Bruce Payton. Really appreciate your service to the club and all of the things that you have done in support. All right, and I'm going to hand it off to Peggy Shem Brewster, who was chair of our nominating committee.
Okay, hello everybody. We are presenting a slate to you today. And I'm going to ask everybody that is on the slate that is here to come on up and speak 1 to 2 minutes or less about why you'd like to be on the board. And then we can also take nominations from the floor, as I understand. So we'd like to present as president this coming year, Mike Cerrone. As I'm going to go through the whole slate and then we'll have people come on up and then do the speeches. Vice President Doug Kunz. We have Secretary Gail Rubino, Treasurer David Newswanger, Political Director Martin Pine, Communications Director Ambrosia Studley, Membership Director Crystal Wickham, at large Tara Martin Milius, and at large Charlene Liu. Mike, may I ask you to come up first?
Okay. We're doing multiple duty here, running the sound system and the cameras. I think everybody knows me, but I'm certainly the longest serving, continuous serving board member for the club. I've been membership director. I've been currently communications director, and had another board position that has disappeared several years ago. So as you may have noticed, some of our board members have wanted to take on different roles. So we have kind of rearranged what we're doing here. And I think it will make for a better board and a better execution of the club. And so I'm looking forward to taking on another role where I don't have to run the sound system all through every meeting, because Crystal has volunteered to do that now. So we can focus a little more on the content of the meeting. So I hope you'll approve myself and the rest of the slate. And
all right, it's easier to get me in. Yeah, I sit down. Okay, so hopefully I'm a familiar face, but just in case I'm not, I'm Doug Kunz, and I hope that when you think of me, you think of environment, education, and equity. And I've worked very hard to further those causes. So I've served on the Sustainability Commission for the City of Sunnyvale since 2018, and have worked quite a bit in terms of helping to make sure that the city's making the progress that we hope it makes in terms of our climate action plan and our climate goals. With respect to in education, I've been very active in the local PTA, and with respect to both equity and education, this past year I served as the chair of the trustee area districting committee for the high school district, which has allowed our first ever North Sunnyvale board trustee to be elected. I'm very proud of my role in that. In terms of the club itself, I think that it's important for the club to be engaged on those issues that I just named, as well as protecting at-risk communities and helping to make sure that our local democracy is working as well as possible. So look forward to engaging with those, and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
All right, I'll go next. So, Crystal Wickham, I am the current president of the club, and I have served for 3 years. And and I feel like it's time to take on another role. So, I still want to serve the board and serve the club, and I would like to move into the membership director role. And it is something that I have a little bit of experience with, as I trained our current membership coordinator, Ambrosia, and looking forward to maybe automating some things that are currently kind of tedious and and just streamlining them. I don't know. It's a lot of people have tried, so who knows if that's possible or not. But I would like to take that on. And I also look forward to working closely with Ambrosia, who is running for the communications chair, and in terms of elevating or continuing to elevate the social media presence of the club and encouraging new members and supporting young democratic leaders. So, and I think it's good for the board to kind of shift around roles and shared responsibilities. So I encourage your vote on the entire slate today. Thank you. And here's Ambrosia.
Thank you. I'm Ambrosia Studley, and over the course of the year, everyone should have gotten an email from me about renewing your membership. If you haven't renewed your membership, please do. I've enjoyed getting to know the club in this first year of service on the executive board, and I look forward to switching roles. I wouldn't say because of the tedious part of membership, but I am excited about leaning into social media and using the various platforms to kind of project what the club is doing, and also internally share how we can be more involved, like what the woman from Indivisible was speaking about. I know there's been a lot of interest in getting more engaged. I believe firmly that politics is not a spectator sport, and I'm really enjoying this opportunity to be a little bit more involved. I'm a busy mom of 3 kids in public schools. They're promoting from 5th grade and 8th grade, and next year I'm going to have a senior in high school. So I have a lot going on, but I really am excited about carving out the time and the space to contribute to the club. So thanks for your consideration. Who's next? Martin?
Hi, I'm Martin. I'm running for re-election as your political director. Last year, we got most of the candidates. Well, dual endorsements make it a little confusing, but most of the candidates we endorsed got elected. That was good. It seems like there's a while till the next election. But it's not as far away as you might think. So I'm hoping to help, guide the club through that. Through our endorsement process for the elections in June, help with all the other responsibilities of the political director again. Thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say.
And then it's ready. Okay.
Hi, I'm Tara Martin Milius, and I'm formerly on the council and currently the executive director of Leadership Sunnyvale. And through those
through those activities, I remain very engaged with the city and with people. And I only have the at-large representation because the other things that I serve also take up a lot of time. So I would not be able to serve well, I think, if I had a demanding role of this. But I do support the Democratic Club. I support the community and the local and regional political and community building efforts. And I would never, ever want to do what Martin does, ever. But I thank you very much for it and I appreciate it. And the same is true for what Mike has done. So I really enjoy being on the board, being a part of it, being sort of a community ambassador for it. And I would very much like to continue doing that.
Hi, everyone. My name's Charlene Liu, and I am interested in running for the board because I believe that democracy requires civic engagement, and I am interested in that. I got more into it a couple of years ago when I started bicycle advocacy to make our city bikeable, and I discovered the Democratic Club in that time frame. So I joined, and I find that I look forward to working with the board. I think it's a group of sensible people and also civically engaged, which is what I believe in. I also would like, as a director at large, to work at trying to improve our membership to include younger people. And in my bicycle advocacy work, I have been working with young people, students. So I'm hoping to bring them in to the fold. And then in case some of you don't know me, I am a 23-year resident of Sunnyvale, and I brought up my two children here. They have since flown the coop and living on their own. And I enjoy gardening. I like growing vegetables from seed. Thank you.
What? It doesn't quite go. But you get half my head. Yeah. Hi, I'm Gail Rubino. First, let me talk a little bit about David Newswanger, who is our treasurer. And he, I think reluctantly decided to be the treasurer last year, but he's really done a bang up job. He's got us on Quicken and he gives us financials every month. He's a good person and I think he'd appreciate your vote. As for me, I'm a mobile home resident and I've become an advocate because mobile home folks, for some reason, are disenfranchised in many cases, like Patrick was saying. And living here is kind of weird because you own your home and yet you rent your space. So it's really weird and it's usually a contentious situation. But anyway, I enjoy being the secretary. I think I take notes, okay. And you guys are all welcome to board meetings, even though I mean they're all open, so you can come. And that's it. I'd appreciate your vote. Thanks a lot. Sign off now. 10:40.
Yeah, I just want to mention, this is Peggy again, that we, as the nominating committee, we had a lot of people that were really interested in joining the board, and I found that very encouraging. And we thought really deliberately about including wider representation, and I think that the Democratic Club of Sunnyvale has really been a very constant presence and is really wonderful to be part of. I really enjoyed being on the board. So I'm looking forward to more people interested in joining the board as we go forward. And I think we're now opening. Crystal, how do we do the floor nominations? This is
Okay, I'm not on the elections committee, so if anyone from the elections committee wants to yell at me, feel free. But under our bylaws, it is in order to consider nominations that were not from the nominating committee. If anybody would like to be place their names in for nomination, they should do so before we start voting. And if they want to do it, they should raise their Zoom hand, or they should raise their hand in the room or something. And if there isn't anybody, then the elections committee can tell us when we can vote.
I move that we accept the make them. I move that we accept the recommendations of the nominating committee for these people to be on the board.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I guess we'll vote. Or we can vote by acclamation. Yes. All right. Any opposed? Online or in person? All right. The motion passes. Okay. I'm going to hand it over to our elections committee. We have Ambrosia and Sandy, and online we have Mara. Mara has created the ballot, and can put the Mara's put the ballot online, and we need to get that communicated as well into the room so that yes. Yes. So there is voting online. Yes. Sorry. Oh, I thought it was just accepting that the slate was to be. Yeah.
Certainly speaking with you under the jurisdiction, the elections committee has the final say on all those.
Yeah. No objection. If there's no other nominations, we can just vote for the slate. Both leave the aye, nay.
I believe, and on
there is about.
so to clarify.
Here.
If you can vote online, please do. If you're here, we don't use paper ballots now. I have a QR code if you don't want to type in the address that the guys could be putting up on the screen. There you go. But I think this will work. Or I have a workstation set up that I will give you access to. You do need your voting pin.
For the
So let's just edited work hard to create the ballot. Yeah. Yes, I didn't realize that that's what the vote was. Let's do it. All right, we'll leave the ballot open just for a little longer. Is there anyone online needs any help or can put something in the chat if you need some help?
If everybody in the room voted.
I have not done my own.
Okay.
Thank you for being here.
You'll be eligible to, yeah, you'll be eligible to vote next time.
All right, we're going to close the voting. Haven't seen anything in the chat of anyone needing help. Everyone in the room who is eligible has voted, so it's okay to close the voting. All right, we are at the end of our meeting, but if anyone wants to stick around to hear the result, we also have a few other announcements and we'll open it up to announcements from club members as well. Would anyone like to make an announcement?
I'm chewing on a cookie here, but we will be having our 40th anniversary for the Leadership Sunnyvale group. on the 23rd of August, and it will be open to the public. And we hope that all our friends in the Dems Club and all our alumni will join us for that. We're not quite sure exactly where it's going to be yet. It will be outdoors, but we are putting the stake in the ground and saying that's going to be our 40th, and we'll be there, and it'll be an afternoon, kind of over lunch, something like that, probably at one of our parks. So.
Thank you. Other announcements?
I would like to mention, but not say too many details, that we have selected a finalist at the Sunnyvale School District for a superintendent and are negotiating contract and looking forward to announcing more information. But as a board, we are very excited to have them join us in the governance team.
As another announcement, as many of you may be aware, the City of Sunnyvale Village Center Master Plan is coming to the Planning Commission on June 14th, 16th. That's right. And then we'll be coming later to the City Council. So anyone who's interested in that, you may want to tune in and see. Livable Sunnyvale is having a meeting on the first Wednesday of June to highlight some of those the village center issues, and the planning director Sean Mendrin will attend and talk about some of the pros and some of the the issues involved in putting together a comprehensive plan. So that should be very interesting for everybody.
Yeah, I just wanted to update everybody that that the California Democratic Party state convention is going to be in Anaheim in two weeks from now, and several club members are delegates to the convention, and we'll have a report for you next meeting about how it goes.
Okay, thank you. Up on the screen, there's a few things coming up. We have our next Democratic Club meeting on June 21st. On July 19th will be our annual picnic. There's a few upcoming council actions. So May 22nd is the budget workshop, a full day of fun for everyone. The June 3rd, there's two things. One is a joint meeting of the City Council and the Charter Review Committee. So that will be the first time that the council hears from the Charter Review Committee and can give direction. Then at 7 is the regular meeting, and that includes the budget introduction as well as a review of the fee schedule changes. June 17th is the budget adoption and also review of utility rate increases. July 1st is the Tasman pedestrian and bicycle improvement study. Decision by council. Change to the next one. All right, there's the book group, which I want to put a plug in every month for this. The May 18th was already passed, right? You already had that one? I put the wrong date. Oh, it is tomorrow. Okay, sorry, it's correct. Tomorrow there's a meeting of the book club. And those are the two books that are decided on right now. And you can contact Carol Weiss for getting added to the email list. The book that Patrick mentioned was called Abundance by Ezra Klein. Also a good read. Yeah. All right. And I'm going to ask the elections committee if they have a result or when they're expecting to have a result. Okay. Momentarily, they will have a okay. Thank you. And next slide. Oh, this is no. Yep. No. Yeah, I think we're done. You can stop sharing that one. Yeah, we already did that in the past. Yeah. All right, and I should hand this over. Well, we don't have a new president yet, so I'm expecting there will be a new president shortly. Also, we wanted to recruit for the hospitality committee. So we have some wonderful treats here in person. We encourage those online if you are comfortable to come in person because we have treats and food. And we would like to reestablish the hospitality committee. And so we're looking for volunteers to do that. Any other announcements? Anyone online like to make an announcement? All right, it should just be a few minutes before we have the result of the election. All right, the word in the room from Sandy Spires is that the slate passed overwhelmingly. Well, that is the result of the election. So we congratulate the new board members and we will close the meeting. Thank you all for joining today.